Currently, there are 11 men sitting on Nebraska's death row. For now, the death penalty shows no sign of going away, but that's not stopping one state lawmaker from trying to push through a bill abolishing it, like what happened several years ago. Another proposal could change how it's carried out. First Alert 6's Joe Harris joins us live in the studio to help us understand this complex issue. Joe?
Aaron, the death penalty is controversial in Nebraska and across the country, so it may be no surprise we're seeing another attempt to prohibit it in this state. Another senator is touting that second bill that you mentioned as a humane way to carry out the highest punishment at a time when they say the state is out of options.
Currently, Nebraska is unable to carry out executions, leaving us with what amounts to a mental torture penalty.
State Senator Terrell McKinney of Omaha has a bill which would abolish the death penalty in Nebraska and replace it with life in prison. McKinney says the death penalty is inhumane and fails to deter people from committing the most heinous crimes, but he also says it's costly.
The financial burden of the death penalty far exceeds that of life imprisonment. Executions cost 2 to 5 times more due to prolonged legal processes, appeals, and required procedures.
That's a false argument. All of the same appeals are available to somebody who's in prison for life as are to those on death row.
Rod Edwards was the state political director of Nebraskans for the death penalty, which helped petition to restore it in 2016. He points to more than 60% of voters bringing the death penalty back after the legislature passed a law prohibiting it.
The voters have already spoken on this issue, and it was pretty overwhelming, both in the petition gathering portion of it and in the vote.
Senator Lauren Lippincott of Central City has a bill which would change how it's potentially carried out. It would allow nitrogen hypoxia as an acceptable method. That's when someone inhales pure nitrogen gas through a mask until they suffocate.
There is documentation before you that suicides with nitrogen or helium gases are painless. Nitrogen is painless, it is peaceful, and it's plentiful.
No one at the hearing testified in favor of his bill, but Edwards says nitrogen gas could work.
The only challenge we've faced is finding a method that is considered humanely acceptable to carry out the executions. So if this is an option, I believe there's at least one state in the country that is doing this. So if this is an option that makes it a more viable action, then I think I would be interested in learning more about that.
The method has only been used 3 times in the U.S., all of them happening in Alabama last year, starting with convicted killer Kenneth Smith. But a critic at Friday's hearing quoted a reverend who witnessed that execution.
What we saw was minutes of someone struggling for their life. What we saw minutes of someone heaving back and forth.
Legislation like this, which has already passed in other states, asks us to stomach allowing our state to kill people in our name via a method that our veterinarians won't even recommend for our pets.
Now, both these proposals need to make it out of committee before lawmakers can debate them on the floor. Aaron.
Thank you, Joe.